have a bit of delay on the program, but we're very happy to stay with us because we will welcome panelists for the Liftoff to Learning, Shaping the Future of Space Generation. All right, so I will leave the floor now and invite on stage the following panelists: Eric Tschirhart, I'm sorry if I don't pronounce the word correctly, Mathias, Patrick Michel, I saw you here, and David Jelinek. Thank you. Hi, nice to meet you. Mathias, please have a seat. Never. Hi, nice to meet you. I apologize for the little delay, but we have a canceling afterwards, so we can just continue the panel even a little bit after. All right. So we're here to talk about. Please come in if you want to sit down. Don't hesitate. Don't hesitate. We're here to talk about how we can shape the future of the space generation. So maybe just as a lightning round, can we have a two-liner about what you do exactly and how does that relate to shaping the future generation in space? Maybe Patrick, if you want to start.
Yes, good afternoon everyone. So what I do is I participate to space missions which are better than any movie of Indiana Jones. So they are effectively, we do crazy things in space, and I hope with that we can inspire the young generation and the public and show them, the pleasure to discover.
All right.
And I think that's very important. So by also sharing with the public all these adventures, giving conferences, etc., I think we can greatly help with that. And I have actually an anecdote about that, which make me very old, is that this winter somebody came to me. He looked like having 70 years old, and he says, "Mr. Michel, now I am in the space industry, and it's thanks to you because 20 years ago you gave a talk, changed my life." 20 years ago. So it was both a source of happiness because, at least you think that you serve the cause, at least for someone. But I didn't realize I was so old.
Decades of inspiring the next and current then generation. Yeah.
No.
Then Mathias?
Yes, hello. It works?
Yeah. Is it turned on towards the up? Yeah.
Hello?
I think so. Is it working?
Doesn't sound like it's working.
Okay, let me check.
I'll take this one. Yeah, that works. Better.
Oh, yeah. Maybe.
Yes, my name is Mathias. I'm Deputy CEO of the Luxembourg Space Agency. So our role is mainly to shape the Luxembourg space sector and the future of the Luxembourg in space. So we have around 80 companies here in Luxembourg, 80 space companies. We know basically all of them. We support them in their activities, help them to further grow. And of course that means also building an ecosystem around those companies and in this country to help shape this future, meaning working on the legal and regulatory aspects, working on international relations between Luxembourg, the European member states of ESA, the European member states of the EU, and even beyond Europe, working on financials, putting our companies in touch with investors that can invest in them, working on talent development. I think we'll talk about that to ensure that we find the right people to work in our company. So it's a lot of different aspects, but all in all, we do all this to further grow the Luxembourg space ecosystem.
Thank you very much for being here with us. And we also have our two speakers. Eric, you should have your mic here. If you want to turn it on, you need to put it towards the...
I think we're going to trade the mics.
Okay.
Without COVID.
In
a nutshell, my basic work is Professor of Physiology in Medicine. That's my basic work. I've done many things in my life, but the thing for today is probably the following. We had flights to Skylab and to the ISS within the late 90s and within the 2000s, bringing animals to study space immunology. How do you react to many things? Because as you know, space, by definition, is hostile. We are not meant to live over there. This is a basic fact. This is why so much important is life support. If you want to go to the moon and if you want to go to Mars, even going to Mars, fair and return, it's 3.5 years. You have to live almost correctly for 3.5 years. And this is one of the basic questions of life support within the space industry. Second point, I'm managing also a network of European universities, which is financed by European Commission through the Erasmus Plus program. We are 7 European universities working on space. You have big players like Krakow, like Toulouse, Super-Héros, and so on. Luxembourg, Namur, Luleå, where they have a very nice master in space engineering, and also Düsseldorf. We have all the national and European Space Agency on board within the advisory board. It's pretty a huge success. We have students and we deliver European diplomas. There we are.
Perfect.
Let's try.
Thank you. And David. Oh, yeah.
Great. So I'm here from the European Commission. I work at Director General for Defense Industry and Space. I work, I used to work for 2.5 years in a unit that focuses on space innovation. And concretely, we were, covering the space domain, both by recently published Space Act, so really making sure that through legislation, it's not a barrier, but actually something that allows us to use space for longer time, that we face the risk of Kepler effect, but also doing very concrete things like Université is coming from us. Also projects like we do hackathons around Europe. We do also now a pilot edition of space camps for teenagers. We also have platform for employment and internships in space. So we really try to translate the things we talk about into concrete and tangible results.
All right, so we've talked about space camps, conferences, outreach, talent development, working with the universities. So those are tools to kind of shape the next generation, as we say. What is for you missing between like classroom knowledge to someone that is ready to work on a specific mission in space? Who wants to start? Okay, Patrick, you go for it because you've worked on a lot of different missions at ESA.
What's missing is to work hard. You need a lot of knowledge. It's clear. I encourage the young people to reach for the people really working in the field, because the contact is what's the best. And in fact, in Luxembourg, and Asteroid Foundation is really doing a lot of efforts for that, because through, for instance, the Planetary Defense Challenge, it gives us the occasion to go to high school to explain, asteroid missions, and then they have to do their own work. So the fact that they feel contributing by doing an exercise, interacting with the real experts is a great opportunity, because then afterwards, when they want to work in the field, they already know some people. So the contact, the close contact is very important. But it's true that space is hard. It's multidisciplinary. I think there is room for anyone. There are so many topics. You don't have to be the best, but you have to work and do, have the sense of efforts and long term. So if you have that, and that's part of the knowledge. The key is not only to want to learn, but to accept that this is a long-term process, and that is not easy. But nothing is easy in life. So if you like it, it will be easier.
I like it. You talked about interdisciplinarity, and in a sense, it's not just about having hard skills, but kind of those soft skills of wanting to, push forward this resilience of hard working. How do we feed those values to children or to the youth? Maybe David, through some of the activities that you said.
So indeed. Me, myself, for example, I'm an anthropologist, so I came to the space sector by a complete random consequence. Basically, the main reason is that in Prague, because I'm Czech and I lived in Prague more than 20 years, there is the European Union Space Program Agency, and I went there for Open Doors Day, and I said, well, maybe that's something interesting and something that I could do, even though I have no background in space, but actually I have a master's degree in anthropology, which is a bit different, but there was something that, and by the way, also in the when I was applying, there was a requirement of having a space background and also knowing Finnish language for some reason. But I applied anyways, and I said, okay, I don't speak Finnish, I don't have space background, but maybe I would be a good fit turned out I was a good fit. So, but back to your question. So indeed, we sit in Brussels, right? And we sometimes face the reality that we tend to be a bit detached. So what we do, of course, a lot of surveys, a lot of mapping, etc. And it turned out that how is the current space domain evolving, more and more startups. And if I also have an example, if I really over-exaggerate, you have a team of, let's say, 4 aerospace engineers who come up with a great idea. They create it in a basement of their apartment, you know, and then at some point you need to go to the market and actually sell it. You need to actually create a company, right? And that there we know for a fact, because we talk to those people, that there's probably a better person who could sell your excellent product, you know, and there's probably a better person who can manage the law and etc. So for that reason, we created this platform. It's called Space Career Launchpad, where we want to show that space is not really only for aerospace engineers and lawyers. Oh, sorry, lawyers and astronauts, because in fact there is a lot of openings in many different fields, and we want to show that okay, we need to get rid of this. Label of space being some like niche domain for nerds, that we really want to show that okay, it's really for everyone, even for creative people. I mean, okay, this creativity does not exclude technical education, but this is something, as you pointed out, the interdisciplinarity will at some point pop out. If you want to have a successful company, you need to have a diverse team. So with that initiative, we offer, I think now there is more than 100 companies who actually signed up to that platform. We have more than 100 openings in many different fields, many different countries. So what we want to do is to also give it an international dimension, because really space is not a domain for one country. It's international by its nature. So this is something concrete, which we are answering those points that we found out through the mapping.
So is it for the target audience of your platform, you're talking to young founders? Do you have an age range? Or?
So it's not limited by age. It's targeted at young graduates and students by the nature of the platform, because it offers internships and entry-level jobs. So in fact, of course, if you are at a later stage of your career and you want to enter, by any means, you can register. But by the nature of the job offers there, it's a bit more targeted at younger audience, but there is no age limit.
Okay, thank you. So Mathias, about this diversity, when you do talent development at LSA, is this something that you take into account, not only having space engineers?
Absolutely. We have developed over the years different programs that bring space into all the different age categories, if you want. We start very early with primary schools, and I think that's really the key. You need to show to the very young students what space is and that there are opportunities there. And usually space is quite fascinating, so when you show, like Patrick said, when you show things about space, this is already very impactful. And then you have to continue, of course. So we continue in high schools. We have at the University of Luxembourg, in the meantime, 2 space masters. We have the university network. And even beyond university, we have programs to bring young graduate trainees to the European Space Agency. So the chain exists. So we have now the tools to train anyone towards space. And indeed, it's not only about technical skills. It's much wider. It's science, it's legal, it's business. There are plenty of opportunities, but you have to bring this knowledge to the right people so that they consider this career. And I think here really the key is awareness, showing what space means really, because as it was said, for many people space remains rocket science, and they don't know that actually normal people are just normal in parentage. Are needed also in this sector. And I think for many of us, I mean, you just mentioned it, as an anthropologist, you never thought about space. I'm an engineer, but I didn't study space. I think for most people working in the space sector, actually, they didn't consider space career initially. They somehow dropped into space at a certain stage, and they saw that this can also work for them. And so the key is really awareness, and what we are doing here with Asteroid Day, Asteroid Festival, this is really what is needed to bring more awareness of space to the general public.
And so, Eric, you're working directly with universities. How can we give those interdisciplinary soft skills to students, do you think, to go to the space sector?
In this context, I have 2 points to collect also the opinions and positions from my colleagues. The first one is that space is changing since now a few years. We came from very classical agency-related ordered projects by public agency, NASA, ESA. And then there was one guy in the early 2010s who were really pushing for something different. And to make a long story short, a year and a half ago, we launched a survey in Europe from the University of Luxembourg and Université, just to understand what were the needs of the companies. And 2 things came out. The first thing is that they still need engineers, no doubt, because you send something, piece of metal to the outside, so you need to be able to construct it. But also, since many companies now are building trains or building rockets from off-the-shelves compounds, they also need people to do business. How to buy something, what would be the respective price, and how am I going to be competitive. And last but not least, it's approximately, we say 45% of engineers, 25 to 30% of people to be recruited who being business people. And the third part, which is probably the most important in our regulatory life, is lawyers. I have a friend who told me once that 100 lawyers at the bottom of the sea is a good start. Now, this being said, these people will be able to protect the success of your company by signing correct contracts. And this is something that we discovered. And when we look at the education tracks that we propose now within this European network of universities with Luxembourg, is that we expose our STEM people, so engineers people, to business and to law. Because they have to understand that if you talk to a lawyer, the first thing that he will do is to find a way of bullshitting you. Because, life is a contract with yourself and with your neighbors. And in business, and even in space business, it's even worse, because there is one thing which is not unmanaged, is the risk. And the risk management is something which is crucial, and it is crucial for lawyers, because if something fails, at some point somebody has to pay. So I would like to insist, if you want to do a career in space, look at engineering, because it's very classic, it's super funny, you have nice things. Look at business, because you can make money. That's a reasonable option. And thirdly, do law, because it's of interest, because it's full negotiation with people. And also, if you think about the structure of law, it's very mathematical. It's something that I've understood because I'm getting an old dog now. I understood now that law is also mathematical. And the thing which is really interesting in this context, if you infuse law to engineers, they are beginning to be extremely good lawyers. And last thing, if you think that law in space is something which is very special, if you look at the Treaty of Outer Space from 1967, it's based on the English maritime law from the 16th century. So it's something which is super classic. So if you can be a good lawyer in this field, think about it aside of being an engineer.
I'm seeing David being like, yes, we need all of this.
As I mentioned, we just published the space law, so we are giving the food to those people.
If I may say one thing, I think it's effectively fundamental, especially with a new space where now, originally only the governmental agencies could go to space. Now we have the private sector could be independent, so there is a sort of a Far West that needs to be regulated, and it's not that easy. So that's why I think for space law there is a lot of room. But I would, as a scientist, insist also on the science knowledge and the value of science, because this is something that is start to be lost in some countries in Europe, where I can experience myself that some politicians, first of all, they know nothing. But like when I say nothing, it's crazy, the level. And they don't care, do not even know. So that's very bad, because if the politicians themselves think that science does not exist in their head, then effectively it reflects to the interest of the citizen. And you can see it evidently in some countries where science documentaries are not existing anymore on TV, or they have a hard time to be shown. And so the people get used to not have science in their daily life, while basically many things are science interpretation, like during the pandemic where people had to understand statistics, for instance. So the basic knowledge, and I'm really fighting for that, is to have this basic science knowledge part of the cultural knowledge, because sometimes we have a culture, which is more art, human science, and then the basic science is elsewhere. It should be part of the general culture. This is, I think, fundamental because we need it everywhere, but it's also because the way we teach science can be boring also.
Yeah.
Because you are bad in math, you are stupid. No. Of course, if I see math as a way to judge me, I see math as a punition. So already that is not good. So I think we have to change that, because science is fun. We discover a lot of things, like a game. You can be bad, you can take more time to be good, that's fine. But it's very important that now at political level, they understand that. If you want, I can tell you an anecdote quickly. I don't want to take too much, but just to give you the example. I won't name he or her, I wouldn't even say which gender, but somebody who applied to be president in France told me once, he was told that I was a part of the people who initiated this first asteroid deflection test, and it was said, we shoot an asteroid 150 meters in size at 11 million kilometers from the Earth. And we were at my observatory having a wonderful dinner in the dome with a telescope. And this person came to me and said, "Oh, this is fantastic. Did you shoot from here?" I was tempted to say, this is not a cannon, it's a telescope. But the fact that somebody who could have the nuclear button think that we can launch something from Earth at 11 million kilometers and reach a 150-meter object give you the sense of physics. And the second thing was, he was told that, so I was explaining that I say we, but in fact it's a space mission, OSIRIS-REx, went to get a sample of an asteroid at 300 million kilometers from Earth. And this person said, "Oh, did you go and take it?" So I had to say, since 1972, we never went further than 400 kilometers. But just to say, it's very far. They don't even know that astronauts, they think they can go at 300 million kilometers from here, while it's easy to see on the drone. It's far from their head, and that's very scary, actually. So we have to reverse this trend.
Yeah, and I guess it is our tasks as scientists to be in this dialogue with this different population. And talking about populations, because I think we clearly broke down this myth that if you want to work in space, you need to be an aerospace engineer. You can be a lot of different jobs that can come and work in space. And then we were talking about these different populations that we can talk to. And I wanted to ask you, how can we make sure that we target, the youth that are in different parts of a country, geographical area, different genders as well, and different economic backgrounds? How can we be inclusive when we seek for this talent? Maybe Mathias, if I can ask you first.
Yeah, thank you. Again, it's really about bringing space to the young people. I think that's really the key. And of course, when you go to schools and to many schools, then you are automatically inclusive. Everyone is in. At least in primary school, you find everyone of the population. And maybe I can give an example of an initiative that we have here in Luxembourg. It's called Astronaut for a Day. It's the second edition this year. We organized it for the first time 2 years ago. And the principle is to replicate an astronaut selection process for young people between 13 and 18 years old. So it's targeting high schools. And so it's a competition. So this year, for example, we had, I think, 450 participants in that replied for the first stage. And they were definitely it's very inclusive. So it was men and women, it was from different age categories, it was all over the country, different nationalities. You might know that in Luxembourg, nearly half of the population is not Luxembourgish. So of course that is also reflected here in this competition. And then they go through different stages. They have to apply, they have to send in a little video why they want to do this competition. They go through logical tests, to physical tests, and then at the very end there's an interview with the space agency to win then the competition, and that actually means that you're allowed to fly on a parabolic flight. So we have now 15 winners. They will be announced next week, I think, and in October they will fly here from Luxembourg, from the airport, on a parabolic flight. And so this is really a great initiative in itself, because of course you motivate all these young people to envisage a career in space. And by the way, I wanted to add, if you envisage a career in space, that very often still means that you envisage a technical career, and we bitterly need STEM in our society. So that's also a way to bring people towards techniques and to science. And so what was I going to say?
You're talking about the astronaut.
Oh yeah, to the competition. The interesting thing is that these 15 that we select at the very end, they become our ambassadors. So they're ambassadors of the Luxembourg Space Agency to bring space to schools and to do different things in schools to motivate other students to think about space. And this is really how you bring space at the very root of the population.
Yeah.
And of course, hoping that at a certain stage in their career they will come.
Follow-up question. So you select them. Do you have criteria to have a specific representation of the population for the people selected?
At the first stage, no.
Yeah.
We are very open, so the 450 that we selected, everyone could apply. And then, of course, with each stage, let's say, we try to find a certain balance. But in the end, it's a competition. You have to be good in sports, you have to be good in logic, you have to be motivated to speak about space. That's one of the key criteria here. And so, in the end, it's like an astronaut, like a real astronaut selection. It's a bit hard, but in the end, it's every stage is interesting. And even if you didn't make it to the very end, you still got a lot of information about space.
Okay.
Actually, if I may, I know one of the ambassadors. And I mean, the selection is really right, because she's amazing and it transformed her life. She's very proud to be the space ambassador of Luxembourg Space Agency. And so it's a really great program, because they really now feel belonging to the space, field. And it's a good encouragement, because we need to also encourage the young talent. It's good to be a talent, but you can be left like this. So this is a strong encouragement, and that was a great selection. So congrats for the program.
Yeah. Eric, would you like to follow up?
Yeah, concerning this, view, I have another view on this DI, and from a different perspective. I'm seeing students since more than 30 years now. And what I learned is, if you want the youngest view of the audience wants to progress, there is one thing that you have to take into account. Many other students that we have within University of Luxembourg, they want to go to Airbus, Thales, Leonardo. Now these big ones where you are flooded by people around you who know much more than you, because you are young. If you want to be smart, and I guess that everybody can be smart at some point, go to see the maddest one, go to see the fool ones, go to see the people who are outliers in terms of thinking. This means that you will be confronted to people who think differently. And if they think differently, you will be able also to learn to think differently. And this will make the difference. Because if you are homogeneous after an internship of 6 months in Airbus, you probably will be good. But if you go to a company where they are just recruiting outlier students, and where the company is also full of outliers, you will be unique. And if you are unique, people will chase you. And this is absolutely key for your future. You can be in engineering, you can be in business law, or even human sciences. One thing which is important that we most not concerned today is that when you go to the moon or when you go to Mars, at the end of the day, if you look at this situation from a very physiological point of view, you have a couple of organisms in a tin box. We are supposed not to fight within the next 48 hours. This is the basic things. It's human interaction. There was an experiment which was called Mars 500, led by Russians. I was part of the thing. And to make a long story short, we were able to, using urine measurement of certain hormones, we were able to predict when there would be a fight within the next 48 hours. Bizarre and very concerning. So if you take Mars 3.5 years fair in return, and you fight already at the 48th hour, that's a good start. And there is no solution to come back. So I would like also to advocate that diversity is also a question of disciplines. You cannot have a space ecosystem which is just engineers, because it's going to be monolithic. Full stop for me.
Perfect, thank you. Actually, we're going to ask a question to the audience now. So if you take your phone and scan the QR code that's appearing above us, we're wondering, from your point of view, I mean, we've discussed a bit about that, what is the skill or their skills that are the most important for future space jobs? And then we'll give the floor to our panelists to conclude the panel on what they think, okay? Teamwork seems to be one, empathy. Okay, teamwork clear in majority now. Oh, science is still, I mean, it's getting bigger. Teamwork as well, all right. Online as well, you can also take part if you're watching online with us. Okay, now I want to go through our panelists. David, what do you think? What is the most important skill for future space jobs? What's your advice?
Actually, very glad to see that. But if I may just very quickly back to what Mathieu said, because in Czechia we actually did the same, but we are a few steps ahead. We already have the ambassadors, and they are doing a great job. Honestly, it's a great initiative. They are already did the parabolic flight, and it's amazing. But what I wanted to say to that, because as I mentioned, we have the space camps, which is a pilot initiative now, and it is a way how to tackle the inclusion and diversity. And why is it connected to that? Because what we want to do, we didn't want to do like a classic space camp where you launch a stratospheric balloon and like you watch stars, etc. We really wanted to do it around entrepreneurship, so really to explore other ways how to work in the space sector while not being possibly a scientist or whatever. So I think science is okay. I didn't put there the policy. I might, but in the end, it is really we put the frame of the space camps to tackle a lot of these transversal skills, including teamwork, including empathy. So really to do like projects and be, like during that week or how long it takes, you would not only learn about space, but also about teamwork, about the other transversal skills. And also what we did, because I mean the added value of the European Union is really the international angle. So what we did is that we have the pilot version in 7 different member states currently. The first one already took place. The first space camp in Cyprus apparently was a great success. But what I wanted to say with that is that the inclusion needs not only consider like the classics, gender, age, etc., but also there are countries where the space sector is not very strong. And I know that these people are coming to us, what can we do? Like we don't have these Airbus, Thales, Safran, etc., where they could actually work. So naturally, they go to Western Europe, but at the same time, they want to stay at their own country. So what we want to do is really to help build these ecosystems in the countries that the space ecosystem is not super strong, but the talent is there.
Amazing, thank you. Eric, how about you?
I'm happy to see empathy on the screen, because it's absolutely key. You can select the most nicest, smartest people to go to the moon or beyond, but if they don't have some sort of social consideration, your mission will be a failure. And this is one thing which is absolutely key, and it's something that NASA was extremely good at when they launched a Mercury program in the late 60s. And it's something which is interesting to read. If you can go through the internet on the NASA website and see how they selected people, technology, life support, and then the ways, social sciences, how do they interact socially. And even the worst technical guys, the most solidly scientifically sounded people, they had the dose of empathy, which was enormous, because they knew that within 3 square meters of volume, they could put 3 people who would do the job.
Thank you. Matthias, how about you?
Yes, it's interesting to see the list that you put as choices, because it's a mix of hard skills and soft skills. So in terms of soft skills, I can only agree with what was said, and I would probably put also an emphasis on the team, on the teamwork, but in the sense that you need to have a team to bring together all these different hard skills that are needed. And maybe I can give also a short example on something we launched here in Luxembourg, an initiative on space resource utilization, or space mining, as you called it in the previous panel. This is a very long-term initiative of using resources in space. And just to give one example, it might be, for example, using water on the moon for life support, drinking, or for producing propellant, for example, splitting it in hydrogen and oxygen. And it seems very easy like this, but actually it is very difficult as a topic because it's extremely multidisciplinary, and somehow it's also generally what we find in space, and what makes space so interesting is this multidisciplinarity. Why is it so important to have these different skills in this particular topic? Is because from a legal point of view, it was mentioned, it's not clear what is actually allowed, exactly allowed. Are you allowed to own these resources? Are you not? In what kind of framework? Do you need an international framework? So you need lawyers. There will at a certain stage be an in-space economy, also partly on the moon, coming up in the coming decades. So you might be able to sell this water, but these markets do not yet exist. So you need business people to think about these markets and to help create them. And of course, there's technology attached to this. There are bricks of technologies existing, but they need to be matured. They need to be shown to work in space. So you definitely need engineers and scientists. And you need, of course, to pay for all of this. You can pay partly for it as a government, but you also need probably to find investors. And so you need finance experts as well. So this is a very quick example to show that you will need all of these different skills, and you need to make them work together, because you will never find an investor investing in a technology that is not mature, where there's no market, and where the legal framework is a bit shady. So you need definitely to have all of them in a team and then progress together. And I don't know who put the policy, the one, but of course there is a role for space agencies and for governments to somehow orchestrate this, at least at this stage, because we are not yet at a fully commercial sector, so there's definitely a role for governments as well.
Thank you. So I'll leave the last words to you, Patrick. I feel like you're going to tell me science is an essential skill, and that will make all of the skills that are shown and actually essential for the future.
I think teamwork, empathy goes together, and it's very important, because especially space missions like we do for exploration takes a long time, and you need to have, the team spirit. Everybody should be, carried. Everybody should carry each other. And therefore empathy, because it's a long run and we have to get along and support each other. What misses, I think, is flexibility, because in these kind of missions, you have surprises, so you need able to be flexible, to find new solutions. And also because we are in an international framework, and therefore you have to also have a flexible mind to be able to work with very different cultures. It's very different to work with American colleagues and Japanese colleagues, for instance, or even an Italian and a German. No, between them. So, and that's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a cultural enrichment. So you need to be open to other cultures and be flexible enough to be able to understand that you don't communicate the same way if you want the same understanding with somebody from a country and somebody from another country. So you have to, if you want to have an international team, you have to be flexible to be able to do that, and again, to be flexible to, cope with the unknown and the surprises. But all of this is fantastic. But I think this is also one of the important, but I would have to put teamwork first. I'm very, I say one thing, I'm lucky enough that I choose what I do. I am a researcher, I'm paid, I'm a public servant in France, right? So I always have in mind, choose the people with whom you work, you are not obliged to work with people who have an ego like this or whatever. You can choose, and so far we succeeded in the space mission where I am. We have a superb atmosphere, and it's not necessarily the same in any mission. And it's important to keep in mind, because what we do is fantastic. I mean, when we have a new image of a world that we only had as a mathematical model, and now it becomes reality, it's so fantastic that we shouldn't destroy this luck we have to be discoverers with ego things among people. And that's easy to solve. You just choose and respect the people with whom you work.
Amazing last words for these panels. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard us. Teamwork is apparently one of the highest soft skills that you can get. Of course, hard skills are important. I'd like to thank our panelists for sharing these anecdotes and everything you learned along the way. Will you be staying around for the next hour, I guess, if the public has questions? Yes, perfect. So we'll now end the panel. Thank you so much. And we will go towards a little break for the next hour and meet you back at 2 p.m. for the next event.